Dutch football has given us a lot of things over time. It's given us the 4-3-3. It's also given us not only one of the best players in history, but one of the best managers in history, in Johan Cruyff. It also gave us an incredible story a couple years ago with Ajax having an unbelievable run in the Champions League. But now this year, it's giving us another incredible story once again with Feyenoord. Now, Feyenoord's season this year is nothing short of spectacular. They are in with a chance to have a trouble with winning the league, winning the Dutch Cup, and also winning the Europa League, which is just absolutely incredible with how much turnover they have gone through. So in today's video, we're going to be covering the story that is Feyenoord's redemption arc that saw them fall on some hard times, not win a heck of a lot of silverware, and now are looking like they are potentially going to become the top dogs once again of Dutch football. So if you guys happen to enjoy today's video, please feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribing is 100% free, so I want to hit the sub button. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So Feyenoord's not always been called Feyenoord. They've had multiple different name changes throughout the club's history, and in 1908, they were actually founded as Wilhelmina. But throughout time, they ended up changing up their names, like I said, and they eventually decided, you know what, we're going to be called SC Feyenoord, which was spelled differently than it is now, but they were actually named after the neighborhood they were in. And come 1978, that is when they officially changed to Feyenoord that we now know them by. What is amazing about this club, and that a lot of people probably don't know, is that they are one of the most successful clubs in the history of Dutch football, with 15 league titles, 13 Dutch Cup titles, and 4 Johan Cruyff Shields, which I actually believe is called the Johan Cruyff Schaal. Probably pronouncing that wrong though. But they've also done well continentally as well. They won 1 Champions League title, 2 Europa League titles, and an Intercontinental Cup as well, which all of these were named different things at the time that they did actually win them, but under their names, they have won a Champions League title technically and a Europa League title, 2 of those actually. Another thing that people probably don't actually know about Feyenoord is that they have actually played in the Eredivisie, the top league in Dutch football, more than anyone else, and that includes Ajax and PSV Eindhoven. So they have been in the league more often than not over every single other club. And due to the popularity of the club, not only in the Netherlands, but around Europe, around the world, they are known as the People's Club. And like I said previously, they have won multiple different trophies, but their most successful spell was during the 1960s and the 1970s, where they won 9 total trophies. And while having this great spell, they were actually the first Dutch club to win a continental and international cup. But after these great successes, it was kind of hit and miss over the years for them getting silverware, which saw them have to end a 18-year league title drought in 2017. And speaking of that 2017 season, that was their, let's call it their revitalization stage, where they got a new jolt of life to the club, where they started to do much better than they had in recent years. Now, players like Dirk Kuyt, Nikolai Jorgensen, and Jens Toornstra were all vital pieces to their league title, their first one in 18 years coming in 2017, and they had a great supporting cast as well. Now, I've already mentioned Dirk Kuyt, Nikolai Jorgensen, and Jens Toornstra, but they also had the likes of Tony Vilhena, they also had Eljaro Elia, Steven Berghuis, Rick Karsdorp, and Brad Jones, who were all absolutely vital to them winning that league title with playing a boatload of minutes between all of them. Now, the manager that led Feyenoord to their first title in 18 seasons was none other than Giovanni van Bronckhorst, who was very, very good for them, did eventually leave though, which I'll get to in a moment, but he had them that season going 26-4-4 with no losses whatsoever at home. Like I said previously, Giovanni van Bronckhorst ended up leaving, but he left at the end of the 2018-19 season to go to Guangzhou over in the Chinese Super League, which in my opinion definitely a downgrade from managing at a great club like Feyenoord, where he actually finished 11th in his first season there, and then he quit. But after Giovanni left, Jaap Stam stepped in for, I believe it was like a season or 2, and then he resigned. Then Dick Advocaat stepped in, and he left. Now, once Dick Advocaat left, Arne Slot was put in charge to see out the remainder of the 2020-2021 season, where after that he would get his first full season in charge of Feyenoord, having to oversee a rebuild and also continental football as they would be participating in the Europa Conference League. Now, Slot's first steps to the rebuild with Feyenoord was actually not bringing in players immediately. It was kind of overhauling his staff in a way. He would see that Marino Pusic was brought in as his assistant coach and John de Wolf was kept on as his second assistant coach, but he also brought in Dutch football legend Robin van Persie to also be a part of his coaching staff. Now, when Slot would get to rebuilding the roster that he had available to him, he was kind of a, let's just say, low-key genius with how he went about things. He brought in Gus Chill from Spartak Moscow on loan for the season. He also brought in Reece Nelson from Arsenal on loan for the season. He brought in Alireza Jahan Bakesh from Brighton for €1 million. He brought in Cyril Dessers from KRC Genk on loan for the season. Brought in Marcus Peterson from Molde for €2 million. Gernot Trauner from Lask for €1 million. Patrick Volmark from Haken for €3.25 million. And Frederick Arnes from Molde for €450,000. Now, to bring in those 8 players, he spent a total of €7.7 million, and of course 3 of those players were on loan, but there were some other deals that went through as well to kind of round out the side that he felt he needed to help challenge for the title and to do well in the Europa Conference League. But also, those 8 players that I just mentioned played a total of 14,000 minutes over the season. Now, Slot's first full season at Feyenoord was actually a pretty solid one. Yes, they didn't win the league. They also didn't win the Dutch Cup, but they did have a great run in the Europa Conference League. Now, they finished 3rd in the league, which automatically qualified them for the Europa League this year for the 2022-2023 season. But also, they got knocked out in the second round in the Dutch Cup, unfortunately, but that kind of allowed them to focus a little bit more on the Europa Conference League. And focus on the Europa Conference League, they did. Now, to get to the group stage alone for the Europa Conference League, everyone has to play their qualifier games. And they did very, very well. They knocked out FC Drita from Kosovo, FC Luzern from Switzerland, and IF Elfsborg from Sweden, which Elfsborg, out of those 3 clubs, were the only ones to score on Feyenoord, but luckily Feyenoord saw it through and won 6-3 on aggregate. Now, even though it's the Europa Conference League and a lot of people think that the Europa Conference League isn't anything special, their group was not easy. They had to play one of the top clubs out of the Czech Republic in Slavia Prague. They also had to play a very determined side out of Germany in Union Berlin. They also had to play one of the top dogs in Israel in Maccabi Haifa. And even though that is not any group whatsoever, as all of them have performed very well this year in either their leagues or within Champions League or Europa League, as that is where all of them are playing now, they topped the group 4-2-0. So they kind of made it look like a piece of cake. And after topping the group, they would face Partizan Belgrade within the round of 16, where they would push them aside on a score of 8-3 on aggregate. After they knocked out Partizan Belgrade, they then had a rematch with Slavia Prague. And in that quarterfinal matchup against Slavia Prague, they would beat them 6-4 on aggregate. So once through the quarterfinals, they meet Marseille, a top French club, in the semifinals in the first season that the Europa Conference League is in existence. So Feyenoord were like, you know what, we're this far, let's try and go all the way. They put all their marbles in to try and win this thing, and they ended up knocking out Marseille on an aggregate score of 3-2, where they meet Roma in the final. Unfortunately for Feyenoord, the Europa Conference League journey would end on a loss, a 1-0 loss to AS Roma in that final, where Jose Mourinho would get another trophy, but Slot and company would get much needed experience and showed that they can definitely compete with big dogs, because they already qualified automatically for the group stages in the Europa League, with where they finished in the league in 3rd. And I mean, Ajax and PSV Eindhoven were very, very good that season. That was Erik ten Hag's last season in charge of Ajax, so they went out on top. And Feyenoord were proven, all right, we kind of know what we are capable of now, and that is taking everyone the distance and proving a lot of people wrong. And with the great season that they had under Schlott, it led to a lot of players having interest from elsewhere, and a majority of them were bigger clubs. Saw players like Luis Sinisterra move to Leeds for 25 million euros. Marco Senesi moved to Bournemouth for 15 million euros. Tyrell Malacia moved to Man United for 50 million euros as well. And Frederic Arne to Benfica for 13 million euros, which previously he was bought for 450,000 euros. So right there, that's 68 million euros off of 4 players, which they already made a profit on one of the players that they bought the previous season under Schlott because he did so darn well. Being that they had 60 million euros to work with, plus on top of what they already had, which was probably around 10 million euros already to work with, they got to spending. Quentin Timber was brought in from FC Utrecht for 7.4 million euros. David Hako from Sparta Prague for 6 million euros. Igor Paisho from Cortiba FC for 5 million euros. Yavaro Del Rosen from Hertha Berlin for 4 million euros. Santiago Jimenez from CD Cruz Azul for 4 million euros. Sebastian Szymanski, one of my favorite players, from Dinamo Moscow on a loan. Danilo from Ajax on a free, and Marcos Lopez from San Jose in the MLS for 1.2 million euros. So those 8 players right there, which there were more that were brought in. I just don't want to go through the entire transfer history that they had for this season that they are currently playing in. They spent 27.6 million euros. That is basically a little over a third of what they brought in for just 4 players, which got me to thinking, I think Arne Slot is actually a transfer genius and is doing Moneyball to a very, very good extent. Now, after bringing in all those signings and all the other players that they brought in as well, this kind of helped them add to what is a redemption arc for them, because they went a long while without a trophy. In 2017, they finally won their first league title in 18 seasons, but then kind of fell apart going through manager after manager until they landed on Schlott, and now he's going into his second full season. He got them to a continental final in the Europa Conference League, got them automatic qualification for the group stage in the Europa League, and showed that he knows how to do transfers very, very well, because those signings that he brought in his first full season were integral in the first full season. He then makes 68 million euros off of 4 players, and then only spends about a third of it to bring in 8 players that in reality right now are absolutely vital. So that brings us to current day, where Feyenoord are starting to get back to that big dog that they used to be. They currently are getting ready for a semi-final in the Dutch Cup against Ajax, which, if they win their Classic here between them, they will end up in the final, and that is a shot at 1 trophy right there. In the league, they currently sit in first place. They're 19-7-1. That's right, only losing 1 game this season so far within the league. And guess what? That loss is not at home, so Schlott makes them really, really good at home. It's basically a fortress there in Rotterdam for them. And I mean, they're absolutely spectacular. They're 8 points clear of Ajax right now with 7 games left. And if everything goes right, that is a double for them if they can win the Dutch Cup and if they can win the league. But then we get to the Europa League, where, I mean, their group stage alone was, in my opinion, must-watch football. Now, the Europa League group was very, very well-rounded. It consisted of themselves, obviously, then FC Midtjylland of Denmark, Lazio of Italy, and Sturm Graz of Austria. All of them going 2-2-2, and Feyenoord and Midtjylland would go through due to goal differential on the last day, where Feyenoord beat Lazio 1-0 to top the group. Now, in the round of 16, they had to play Shakhtar Donetsk, and they ended up beating them 8-2 on aggregate. They absolutely throttled them in the second leg 7-1. Being that they got through the round of 16, that now sees them to the quarterfinals of the Europa League, where guess who? AS Roma awaited them. So they have a shot at revenge, at redemption, to redeem themselves after what happened last season where they only lost 1-0 to AS Roma in the Europa Conference League final. And if they can beat AS Roma, I mean, the sky is the limit for this Feyenoord side. They could go to the semifinal. They could go to the final of the Europa League. And if they can win the title along with the Dutch Cup, that's a treble-winning season right there. That would be a magical season. This season is already magical in many different ways with the high turnover that they had. They brought in a new group of players, and Arne Slot has them playing out of their minds. I mean, Sebastian Szymanski is a very, very good loan signing that I actually personally hope he ends up joining Feyenoord because he would be a great playmaker for them to have. Santiago Jimenez, their striker that they brought in from Cruz Azul, has been absolutely integral up top, scoring goal after goal, making it to where everyone knows, all right, Feyenoord is a pretty dangerous side. And their Turkish midfielder Orkun Kökçü, who is very, very good. I absolutely love the way that he plays. He is just a tireless, do-it-all midfielder that those three have kind of made this season possible and are all playing very, very important parts. Now, that's not to take away from other players, as it is a team game and they're playing total team football. But those three players alone are proving, okay, we know what we are capable of here with this side. And say everything plays right, say everything falls right for Feyenoord to potentially complete this treble. It would be the first time a Dutch club can complete a treble since 87-88, which the last club to do it was PSV Eindhoven. And if they can see out the rest of the season, win the title, win the Dutch Cup, somehow win the Europa League, or at least even just get to a final in the Europa League, this will be one of the best ever seasons for a Feyenoord side. Without a doubt, this will be one of the best seasons by a Dutch manager in a long while, probably honestly since Erik ten Hag took Ajax all the way to the semifinals in the 2018-19 season, I believe it was. So, I mean, Arne Slot has been doing absolute magic with this side, and they are, in my opinion, definitely redeemed to where Feyenoord is now, I would say, the top dog in Dutch football, because Ajax kind of got rated when Erik ten Hag left for Manchester United, and they have kind of struggled this year, and everyone usually expects Ajax to be that team that just wipes everyone out and just wins everything Dutch football-wise. But Feyenoord, they are now that club right now. And if they can make that push to continue it, Arne Slot is going to not only be a legend at Feyenoord, but a Dutch football legend, especially if they can pull off the treble this year. I mean, that would be the first time it would happen in Dutch football, like I said, since 1987-1988. Now, there's 2 months left to this season. 7 games doesn't seem like a whole lot, but 2 months is a lot of time. So hopefully they can continue this run that they are on, win the league title, win the Dutch Cup, get to the final, or even win the Europa League. If that can happen, this will definitely be one of the greatest ever Dutch sides to ever play the game. Yes, it doesn't have like incredible names in it, but I mean, everyone does their part. It's total team football, like I said. Everyone does their job, and Arne Slot has proved that he is an absolute transfer genius when it comes to building sides, because he's had to do it twice in back-to-back seasons and has both times had incredible runs. So I am hoping and praying that Feyenoord can pull this off, because the fans and the city of Rotterdam definitely deserve this. So that about wraps things up here for today's video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you guys did enjoy, please feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribing is 100% free, so why not hit that sub button? And please definitely feel free to watch the remainder of Feyenoord's season, because this is absolute magic, and I feel it is must watch football anytime they're on TV right now. So try and catch their last 7 games. Try and catch the Dutch Cup semifinal, potentially final if they're in it, and definitely make sure to watch when they play against AS Roma in the quarterfinals of the Europa League, because I have a feeling that they are going to be coming out very, very strong against Jose Mourinho's side, and hopefully see themselves onto a semifinal and a final appearance in the Europa League. But once again, if you guys happen to enjoy today's video, please feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribe is 100% free. And until next time, have a good one. Goodbye.